Hi, I'm Stephanie Barnes. I am the High Sierra Ranger District aquatic biologist, and I'm also the forest lead for threatened and endangered amphibians on the forest. And I'm here to talk to you about the Yosemite toad. The Yosemite toad is a threatened species, federally threatened, and we are in its habitat right now. This is one of my main breeding populations. They're very unique and special to me because they're super robust. So they hibernate for about 8 months out of the year under the snow. And then when the snow melts, they come out and then they tiptoe across the snow out to these breeding habitats that open up. They breed and then they take off after they're done breeding. So they don't actually spend a lot of time as adults or juveniles in the meadow. They might stay in here and forage around for a little while, but for the most part, after they're done breeding, they take off and go back into the upland habitats, and then they spend most of their time up there. They can move up to 3/4 of a mile or farther away from the meadow, so they'll leave and then hang out that far west, that's a long ways, 1,250 meters. Why should you care about Yosemite toads? A lot of people ask me that question, and I think that one of the main things I tell people is that every animal is a critical part of an ecosystem. And when you take that animal out of an ecosystem, it changes how everything functions because things predate on it or it predates on something else. And so you take that balance out. And Yosemite toads, one of the cool things about them is that they have parotoid glands on the back of their heads that makes them toxic. And so they're here in this semi-harsh environment. I mean, winter, it's very harsh, and they play a key role in eating insects, keeping mosquitoes under control. They can eat a ton of mosquitoes every year. The tadpoles eat detritus and other things. So they just keep everything in balance and in check. And so, people think that, well, we're people and we're more important. Well, when you start taking out pieces of the ecosystem like the Yosemite toad, then it makes it harder on everyone in the long run, and every single piece of the puzzle makes a difference. So Yosemite toads are a very important part of the piece of the puzzle that we need to maintain. The Yosemite toad is actually federally threatened. So endangered means they're close to becoming extinct, and threatened means that they're on a downhill trend. But if we can intervene and do things to help protect the species or improve their habitat or keep them from getting killed, we can eventually get them delisted. And so that's part of one of the things that I'm doing, especially out here today, is after this fire suppression activities happened, is I'm coming out here to try and help improve the habitat or put the habitat back to where it was, so we're not doing things like creating dispersal barriers or impacting any of the habitat that's up away from the meadow, where a lot of people don't think that there's anything important out there, or why would there be a toad out there? Well, that's where the toads are, and I'm here to tell everybody about it. I'm working with this crew to teach them about the toads because it's important that they understand why they're doing what they're doing. And we're taking all the saplings and transporting them to a different location so that it opens the areas up for the toads to be able to get across back and forth from the meadow. And the other thing that we're working on is some of the hazard trees also had to be felled as part of fire safety and part of making sure that if the fire got through, that didn't become an issue. So when they felled those trees, they create basically a very long line of a continuous barrier. And so we're breaking that up. So we're cutting pieces of the tree and then we're rolling that out. So when a toad comes either down and they hit that tree, they don't have that far to go before they can find an opening to get to the breeding habitat. And then also when they're going out, they can find those holes and get through them and keep going without having to expend a lot of energy. Working with the crews is actually great. It's very refreshing how enthusiastic people are to learn about the toads. And when I start telling people all the information, they're very enthusiastic and they want to see one. And it's kind of fun because, coming into this job, I've been here for a long time. It's been kind of a struggle being a biologist and people, going, toads are just toads. I just want to say thanks to everybody on the fire for being so receptive and knowing about the toad and wanting to learn about the toad and being a part of the suppression repair work and wanting to understand about the species. That's great. I love it, and it brings me hope that I can get the species delisted someday.